8 hours to get it ashore. And then it was not good business for them because nobody would buy that fish, you know. They were scared that it could have had secondary, a disease that you really find in Barracuda, you know. And they didn't do a test on it.
We continued our island tour of Grenada. We went up around the north side of the island. We stopped at Petit Anse, a resort on the north side of the island, to have lunch. This resort is beautiful and has amazing views.
That's Carriacou. Island that got destroyed. It's off my shoulder.
These are the others that came on the tour with us.
Part of the problem too. Yeah. By the time you get here, the current is through here, pushing you west. Something fierce.
Yes, it is.
Petit Anse. This is the resort with Darlene in it. And the building, and I think they have, well, there's a pool. And they must have like little cottages. So we're going back up this little path, back onto our guided tour.
In order to crush or extract all the juice from the sugarcane crop. So that's how we name the rum rivers. Now within that canal they place wooden sluice gate. So that sluice gate acts as a form of switch to activate and to deactivate the flow of the water. But if you look ahead of us, you will notice this huge structure, concrete structure right there. That's an aqueduct. So it's basically a bridge that carries the water onto the waterway. Not as long as normally during the Monday to Thursday period, right? Now, if you look closely on these giant waterways, you will notice G. Fletcher's and Co. London and Derby. So this waterway is originated from England. So during the 1700s, England was responsible for a lot of these waterways being distributed throughout the Caribbean. That's the only one in full operation present. Now you may notice the estate was established by French, but then you have a waterway from England. In other words, we have a lot of drinkers here on island, right? So normally during the rainy season, we get more juice from the sugarcane crop, but the sugar content is lower.
The aqueduct.
Onto the conveyor belt, all by hand. So straight from the sugarcane plantation onto that conveyor belt. The water moves along the aqueduct, falls onto the water wheel, causes it to spin, resulting in the conveyor belt moving upward. Now this conveyor belt is controlled by a clutch. The person responsible for controlling the clutch is known as a person. So he's going to regulate the flow of the sugarcane. Right? So we don't want to have too much cane being pressed at the same time. That will be very bad for the water wheel. So the bosun will stand at the top in a small area and he will use that clutch in order to regulate the flow of the sugarcane. Rotate that clutch clockwise to activate the conveyor belt, rotate anti-clockwise to deactivate the conveyor belt. So that sugarcane come up from the conveyor belt and it will fall inside 3 press. Come up from the conveyor belt, falls inside 3 press.
Oh yeah.
The juice will be extracted and it flows through a small channel which leads into the boiling mouth of the concentrated room. Now the pulp will pass all these directions. So So the pulp, this is now known as bagas or la bagas, and it's a French word. And if you notice, there's a lot of the bagas, as you came in, you see a lot of the tons of it out there. Small channel, which leads into the boiling house or the concentrated room. Now the pulp will pass all these directions. So the pulp, this is now known as bagas or la bagas, and it's a French word. And if you notice, there's a lot of the bagas, as you came in, you see a lot of it, tons of it out there.
After our lunch, we stopped at a rum distillery. They make rum the manual way, very close to the way they made it hundreds of years ago.
Feels pretty soft, right? It's like you're walking on a mattress. Concentrated process, it's a slow heated process. So we start from lower temperatures into higher temperatures. Now, it's a similar process like when you're making syrup, but just on a larger scale. Right? So at the inside, there are 5 copper pots, 5 different temperatures. So as the juice goes along the different pot from lower temperatures into higher temperatures, the water evaporates. In the grinding area, now if you notice at the back, there's PVC pipes. The juice will flow through those PVC pipes and enter into a first tank known as the receiver. Now back then there was no PVC available at the time. But if you notice, as the world modernized, it tends to make slim adjustments over the years, right? Nice. So before PVC, they were using bamboo. So that juice enters into a first tank known as the receiver. So we'll do a bit of filtering in the receiver. Now if you notice at the end of the tank, it contains a valve. We'll release that valve, and this will allow the sugarcane juice to be poured into the first copper pot. So like I said, it's a slow heated process and enter into a first tank known as the receiver. Now back then there was no PVC available at the time. So at one point they were using bamboo. But if you notice, as the world modernized, we tend to make slim adjustments over the years, right? Nice. So before PVC they were using bamboo. So that juice enters into a first tank known as the receiver. So we'll do a bit of filtering in the receiver. Now if you notice, at the end of the tank it contains a valve. We'll release that valve, and this will allow the sugarcane juice to be poured into the first copper pot. So like I said, it's a slow heated process. In here there are 5 copper pots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the last pot to my right, that's the pot that is directly over the furnace. So that's where the more intense heat is present. Now if you only take that sugarcane juice and place it directly into pot number 5, it will caramelize, burn, because the temperature is too high. So that's how we start from 1 degree Celsius. 1 degree Celsius into our pots. So as that juice goes along the different pots, the temperature increases, the quantity decreases because we're getting rid of the water. So we'll use a tool by hand from pot number 1 to pot number 5. Now once the juice is fully concentrated, you tend to see less steam or vapor. So that's an indication that we get rid of that water. So the juice will then be ladled into a wooden chute. Oops, step back a bit. Right, we ladle that juice into a wooden chute. And that juice will enter into a holding tank to cool up.
This is their spreadsheet. Chalkboard.
Pretty cool, right? The fermentation process only takes 8 days, which is a long time compared to other distilleries. Now the reason why it takes 8 days because it's all natural fermentation. We don't add any yeast, we depend on natural yeast from the atmosphere to help with the fermentation. Right? So that's why normally when you drink River's rum, there's a very low chance of any headaches or hangover because it's done the natural way. It's all Mother Nature. After the 8 days expired, if you notice at the base of the tank, there's a valve at the end of each and every tank. They will release the red valve, and this allows the fully fermented juice to flow through those pipes. And by the help of this green electric pump, we'll pump that juice into the distilling area, and that's where all the magic happens. So if you notice, there's not much ingredients in rum. It's just sugar, water, and natural yeast. And these 3 ingredients could make you have a hell of a weekend. Right? You could party a lot. Right? So we are going to view that juice in its fermentation process. To some of you, it might be a pleasant scent. To others, it might be unpleasant. So if it's unpleasant to you, just indicate to me and we could just bypass it. No problem. Okay? Nice.
Finger in the dike. What happens when you spring a leak?
you have to eat there, so when you cook it, taste it. Just check this out. Incredible, right? Yeah.
So how long has this been in here then?
Now this could be here about day 2 to day 3. It's a bit young. That's why you notice it's a bit active.
Right.
Because it's young. So what you're seeing there, that's the natural yeast converting sugars into alcohol. So that's a chemical reaction. It creates a lot of bubbles. Now it looks like it's boiling, but it's not. That's just the natural yeast doing this thing. Now if you look at this tank here, it's a bit slower. Why? Because it's older. So the younger it is, the more active. The older it is, the less active. So like when you're a child in your younger days, you're more active. And then as you grow older, you get a bit more relaxed. So it's similar, right? No.
Do they stir it?
Right. So every 3 times per day, they tend to give it a mix and so forth and filter off some of the tops and so forth, right? So in its older stage of fermentation, it's a bit still, or it's not that active, because that's an indication that all the sugar is almost there. It's almost converted into alcohol, so no need for any chemical activities like this. So this right here is full of sugar still. That's why you have the yeast very active. Now if you taste this right here, you will not get as much as sugar compared to this one, because all the majority of that sugar is already being converted. Yep. After the 8 days expire, we'll pump that juice into the distilling area. Now the batch that will come to replace this one will already be meeting the pre-existing yeast from the previous batch. So in other words, we leave a little bit of yeast back in there in order to accommodate the next batch, as it serves as a starter,
Right.
like sourdough. And that's where the rum gets to purifies itself. Now 600 gallons of the fermented juice will start back there. 600 gallons of it will be pumped into a silver tank. This silver tank is known as the preheater. Now out of the 600 gallons, this would be done in batches. So they only would start things off with 300 gallons, or half of that 600, right? Now 300 gallons of the fermented juice will be poured into the kettle, while 300 gallons remain back in the preheater. So we'll get back to the 300 gallons momentarily. But for now, if you notice, we no longer would be using the bagasse or the pulps anymore. So this time we use wood or lumber, because we're aiming at high temperatures now for longer period. Right? So this time we're trying to evaporate that alcohol from the fermented juice using high temperatures for longer period. So this operates like when you're making your tea on a morning and the kettle starts whistling and the steam or the vapor start coming out from the kettle. Now in this case, the steam or the vapor will just be the alcohol.
The actual fire to heat it up.
As well. So after the rum passes through the cooling system, within the coils in the water, it will channel through these iron pipes, which is connected to those tubes. Now if you look closely in there, you will notice these are hydrometers. So these are used in order to check the percentage of that alcohol, or how strong that alcohol is. So the hydrometers, they would sink or float to determine the strength based on the density. Now rum is a mixture of alcohol and water. So if it's 75% alcohol, it's just 25% water. So what the hydrometer do is tell you the difference between the percentages of water and alcohol in the mixture. Now here at this distillery, we do 2 strengths of alcohol for the market. We do a 69%, which is equivalent to 138 proof. We do a 75%, which is equivalent to 150 proof. Now the 69% was designed for you, the tourists, because after 9/11 there was rules and restrictions put in place. You're not allowed to travel with percentages of alcohol that is over 70. It's considered to be an explosive. So before we were only producing the 75% rum, but after 9/11 we add a bit of water in order to dilute it down to 69%. So this one was designed for you. And there's a difference with the label. 69% blue label, 75% red label. So don't be flashing the red label in your suitcase at the airport down here, or else it will take it from you. Right, so normally, after the distilling process complete, we are looking for percentages of alcohol that is over 75%. Now the stronger we get it, the more it yields, or the more we get from it. Right, so if you keep getting it at 85%, this is good, because we could be able to get 69 and 75% out of it. Right?
That's used in 1984, the last plane. So we just use it for drag racing now.
Old airport, now drag racing.
You can get a plane to buy here. They're going cheap. You want a plane to buy?
It's actually looking at one in Venezuela. Oh, it's hard to get here.
Okay.
But yeah, those look like they're a little worth cheap.
So all these buildings here, these were the duty free shops, like your French perfume, the Swiss watch, you know, thing you get this here. This building, this part here, these are the police. The police, they are still here, right here, to make sure no plane, no small plane and come with drugs or so, you know, make sure. So you see the planes here. Yes, so this smaller one, this first one.
They need a little work.
This first one was the Prime Minister's plane, Maurice Bishop. And you look at the bigger one, that was Ekibana. It was a commercial plane. And this last piece of the wing, the right wing, only fell to burial.
Oh, really?
Yes. So that coming up on your left is the entrance of St. Margaret Falls. St. Margaret Falls is better known as Seven Sisters. You could have stand down there, you know?
It rains about 140 inches a year, and the lower elevations only get about 60 inches a year. The rainforest, top of the rainforest.
Ones you go drink at the bar.
This is the best place to see the sunset. We were able to catch a gorgeous sunset. We want to say thank you to all of our viewers who have subscribed and commented. We appreciate your support and feedback. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. This really helps us build our channel up so we can keep bringing you more videos.